October through a May cycle of seeing the 60K to 45K in pipeline.
About 7 months. Yeah. Karen.
You had said that you didn't recommend that Matt do writing, blogging, but that video is better. But the other one, you had suggested that he do writing. Is there anything else? I mean, is that pretty much the only choices you think of?
No. That's, I don't want you to walk away with that at all. Okay. We did a whole bunch of things.
What were some of the other people's that they were good at?
I mean, one guy set up basically set up a LinkedIn group, and his name was Tom. He was his specialty is in like the hospitality ski resort community. Yeah. So he set up a LinkedIn group, and basically he focused on being the connector and being the central place for these people, could be like an association essentially for service providers to resorts, and started sharing out information through there, but used that as one of the examples. So I mean, I think the key thing is figure out, what is it, again, plays your strength. The blueprint's very different for different people. So and also Matt and Russell were doing a lot of other things too, but these were sort of the two.
Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter.
But it's focused on, it wasn't just, hey, I'm on Facebook, it's I want to share out information that's relevant. I want to create stories that stick. I want to have a high signal to noise ratio. So it was very guided and measured in how they were using these tools. And also, I wouldn't let Matt get onto Twitter for like 6 months. He's like, what's Twitter? What's Twitter? I was like, stay back, man. Focus on what you do well. Because I didn't want him to get spread too thin. And then eventually, where he had gotten to the point where he internalized everything else, I was like, all right, now, and actually he prompted me to create a whole, I called it a webinar, a Twitter webinar, where I explained, here's how I use it, blah, blah, blah. But only at that point, I think I did that in a day. So, that was the kind of thing. I mean, that's whatever. So, good question. It doesn't just have to be the program. We can talk about marketing. I love talking about that anyway.
How did you identify their strengths?
So, that's a great question. I should have made it clear that the program was a group session every 2 weeks where we would be on the call. I would do a webcast presentation, kind of like this. They'd walk away with a homework assignment. They'd come back the next week or 2 weeks later with the homework assignment. We'd share it. They'd all share their homework with each other. And through that interactive conversation with each other and reviewing each other's homework, as we were, it sort of became clear. It's like teaching a class. You start to know which students do what well. And so after those 3 months, I mean, that's where the homework came in, is that we started to see what they do well and what they didn't do well. So yeah, great question.
And did you advise them, and did you talk to each one about
so
what those are, so that they can take that
excellent
further?
question. So the strategic blueprint part was, we did a lot of that they did on their own, a lot of that they did with each other in the group. But then the final part was a one-on-one session with me, sort of in December, where we spent about close to 2 hours over two, we traded stuff like that. But basically, the first 80%, they could do with everybody else, but there was 20% that it was a waste of everyone's time to talk just specifically about Watkins IT, obviously. So we did that sort of individually, just one-on-one. But that's kind of how it worked out. Great question, actually.
Hi,
Dan, good to see you.
Good to see you. How did you track which of these leads came from the sources? Because
I didn't do it. Matt did it.
How did you track?
Well, I just reported to Jeremy the deals and the pipeline that were efforts of his program. So, as I started working with Jeremy, like you said, before even the video blog came to play, I started ramping up Facebook, LinkedIn, and I really started to kind of see the value of those tools, where before working with Jeremy, they were, Facebook was just for friends and just for playing around, and LinkedIn was just there. It was a tool I never used. So
I remember he like, for example, he would say like, oh, this guy who was my college friend saw my link, and then he passed it on to someone else, who then said, this is someone I want to talk to. So in your lead source, it was not direct mail or telemarketing, it was friend via Facebook, and so you can start tracking that.
So I would get, so I gave Jeremy a pipeline of opportunities that were developed from his program. And I tell this one story of a very big opportunity that I'm working on, that was my total